Hey everyone, I'm Mike, and today I'm going to be talking about the Electoral College. I'm going to be explaining how it works for those who are unfamiliar, and I'm going to explain what I believe my prediction, or I'm going to explain what my predictions are, rather, for the 2020 election between former Vice President Joe Biden and current President Donald Trump. Today is October 21st, so we are 13 days out from the election, pretty close, less than 2 weeks, over 40 million people voted. But I'm just going to jump right into it. So essentially how the Electoral College works is rather than doing one national popular vote like other countries do, we essentially do 50 smaller popular vote elections where whichever candidate wins them takes all of the Electoral College votes. So let's say Joe Biden wins the state of Washington by 1 million. He will get all 12 electoral votes. But if he only wins Washington by 3 votes, he will still get all 12 electoral votes. So a lot of people wonder how the Electoral College can create an environment where someone wins the Electoral College but loses the popular vote. This is how. So if a candidate runs up the numbers in states they already had a lock on while slightly losing states that have a good amount of electoral votes, like in 2016, for example, Hillary Clinton ran up the numbers in states like California and New York, but Donald Trump was barely able to win by less than 100,000 votes in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. And this led to him being able to win the Electoral College while losing the popular vote. So you could argue about how that's not necessarily a fair system, but this is the system that we are currently operating under for this election. So we're gonna take the Electoral College as gospel for now, essentially. I have split these 50 states into 7 different categories based on how likely how certain I am that they will go a certain way. So first of all, I'm going to choose all the states that it would literally take an act of God for Donald Trump not to win. It's not completely unheard of, but if he loses some of these states, then there's essentially no chance that he'll come anywhere close to winning. And same with the Democrats in these states here as well. Let's see, as you can see, Vermont, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, and Washington, D.C. are all going to be states that are likely to go to Joe Biden, or very likely, rather. And let's see what other states. Am I forgetting any? Oklahoma's a big one. Nebraska's a big one, but there's an asterisk I'm putting with Nebraska, which I will address in a bit. The state of Indiana, and also Virginia will most likely, actually almost definitely, go to the Democrats, as well as Hawaii. So now that that category is out of the way, these are all the states that are essentially, you could bet several $1,000s that these are essentially going to go the way that they are on screen at the moment. But next, I have a few other categories. This is a category of states that it seems a little close, but Donald Trump is almost definitely going to win, and these are the states of Alaska and the state of South Carolina. Polls recently have shown them to tighten up a little bit, but that even regardless, there is no chance, or a very, very small chance, that Donald Trump would lose the state of South Carolina or Alaska. It is a terrible sign for him that they're even in consideration at all for him to lose. That is a very, very awful sign for him. I cannot emphasize that enough. But the polls right now have Donald Trump winning by about 5 to 8 points in both of these states. So for something big to happen, or for something to happen where Donald Trump loses these states, he's just lost. If he loses South Carolina and Alaska, the election's over. But now we're going to move on to a few different states. So the next states I'm categorizing are states that I think Joe Biden is almost definitely going to win, and these are the states of Minnesota, Nevada, and New Hampshire. And I'm saying this because Hillary Clinton won all of these states in 2016 when she lost the Electoral College to Trump. Trump did very well in 2016 in terms of the Electoral College, but despite that, Hillary Clinton was barely able to hang on in these 3 states. Now Joe Biden is doing infinitely better in the polling than Hillary Clinton is, so it'd be really surprising if Donald Trump was able to swipe away one of these states that Hillary won in 2016. And already, as you can tell, this puts Joe Biden at 203. So he only needs 67 votes to get to the 270 that you need to win. But the next category we have are states that Trump won in 2016, but I am pretty confident he's going to lose now. And these are the states of Michigan, Wisconsin, and also not even a state, but Nebraska's 2nd district. So Michigan and Wisconsin, Joe Biden has been polling on average at over 6 to 7% in these states for the last 5 months. That is incredibly consistent polling for him, and I would be incredibly shocked if Joe Biden were to lose these states. It would have to be a polling error 2 to 3 times the size of what we saw in 2016, which would be unheard of. And then I know what you're thinking, what the hell is Nebraska doing here with its little segmented categories? And that's because Nebraska, like Maine, actually gives out its electoral college votes based on districts. So you might be wondering, why does Nebraska have one small district that'll go to Joe Biden? That's because that's the city of Omaha right there. And cities generally often go to Democrats. If you look at the polling in Nebraska 7th District, in the last 4 months, I believe Joe Biden has led at the bare minimum of 6 points and at the maximum 11 points. There has been no point where Donald Trump has been winning this district, so I think it is unlikely that he will be able to win it. I forgot to mention, Illinois is also definitely a state that Joe Biden will win. I forgot to mention that before. Also, Colorado, another state that Hillary won in 2016, will almost definitely be going to Joe Biden this time around. The next category we have are ones that I'm pretty confident in, but something could still happen that'll shake it up. And these are the states of Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Arizona. So Pennsylvania honestly could be considered in the same category as Wisconsin and Michigan, especially because they're all the Rust Belt, so demographically they're somewhat similar. But Joe Biden has been leading by about 6 points on average for the last 4 or 5 months in Pennsylvania. But however, Donald Trump knows that if he loses Pennsylvania, it's essentially over. So he is putting a lot more effort in terms of ads, in terms of visiting the state into Pennsylvania than he is Michigan and Wisconsin, which is why I think that while yes, Joe Biden is likely to win it, I don't want to completely write off Trump in this state. North Carolina and Arizona are very similar though, because Joe Biden's leading by about 3 to 4 points in both of these states. These are both states that Trump won pretty soundly in 2016, but this time around, if you just look at the polling, it's been very terrible for Donald Trump. In North Carolina specifically, out of the last 31 polls that have been done there has not been a single poll where Donald Trump has been winning, which no matter how you slice it is not a good look. And Arizona is a slightly similar story. There's a Senate race there where the Democrat Mark Kelly is doing very well, and that could possibly help Joe Biden a little bit. But another also important thing to factor in with Arizona, actually, is the fact that in other states we saw polling errors. Like in Wisconsin, we saw like a 6 point shift in terms of the polling error. But Arizona was only off by 0.5, so even if the polls were as off as they were in 2016, Joe Biden would still be in a pretty good spot in Arizona in my book. So the next category we're moving on to are states that I'm significantly more uncertain about. And the first one we're starting with is Florida, which is I'm putting as tilt Democrat for now. But that being said, it is very difficult to tell what's going to happen here. On the one hand, Donald Trump knows that he needs to win. This is a state that's arguably more important to him than Pennsylvania. If he loses Florida, it is absolutely over. If Donald Trump is losing by a significant chunk on election day, then essentially the whole race is basically over, because this is a state that he really needs to hold on to. And also, if he loses this state, that's probably a bad sign of how all the other states will go as well. But yeah, Joe Biden has been leading by about 2.5 points to 7 points since May in Florida. So you might think, oh, then Joe Biden's got this, right? Well, the one thing about Florida that is a bit of a wild card is that for some reason they're always really close in terms of their races. They could be voting on getting nukes or getting an ice cream cone, and it'll still be 49.6 to 49.4. For some reason, that's just how it is. Despite what the polling says, it always just comes down to 1 percentage point or two. So that's why I say it's tilt Democrat, just because, yes, Joe Biden is leading in the polls there, but the polls are just, for some reason, not that indicative of who's going to win in the state of Florida. Also, another important thing to factor in is Michael Bloomberg is spending $100 million here for Joe Biden, which so the ad market is essentially flooded with just information and anti-Trump ads constantly, which definitely is not a good thing for Trump. And the second location that I'm going to categorize as tilt Biden is the 2nd District of Maine. This is a district that voted for Trump pretty overwhelmingly, and it also has a lot of white rural voters. However, the recent polling we have seen out of there has actually shown Joe Biden doing slightly better than Trump, so I'm going to barely give it to Joe Biden. It could stay with Trump, But just based off what I'm seeing right now, I don't feel comfortable saying that yet. Now, this last category is one that's very interesting. These four states are ones that I am very uncertain of. To me, they're all essentially coin flips. I don't know how they'll go. Starting with, and all the election models that I have been following as well also essentially say that these are all coin flips, except for Texas, which I'll get to. But I'm categorizing Ohio as, or not Ohio, Iowa rather, as tilting towards Joe Biden, because just based on the last 11 polls that have come out, Trump has been winning 4, but Joe Biden also won 4. However, the polls that have, and also 3 of them have them tied. But the reason why I'm barely giving it to Biden is that in the 2018 midterms, Democrats did pretty well here, and then additionally, the polls that came out recently that shows Joe Biden winning is a very, very high quality pollster, maybe one of the best quality pollsters that there is. So if that poll is saying that Joe Biden's going to win, then I'm going to say that it very slightly, he's a very slight edge in the state of Iowa. Next is Ohio, which I think Trump will barely win. Ohio has actually voted correctly in every single presidential election for the last few decades, which is pretty surprising. So I think it'll be wrong this time just based on the totals up here. But the reason why I think he'll hold on to Ohio is that Trump has had some good polls here for him recently. Even though he had to stop spending here because he's running low on cash, I just think the fact that he held on to this by 9 points in 2016 makes me think that he could possibly clinch it out again. But I really think that these 4 states are essentially all coin flips. Next is Georgia, which I'm also categorizing as tilt Democrat, and I'm saying that just because the polls really have shown that I can go either way. But the other thing that makes me give it a slight edge to the Republicans is honestly really sad. It's the fact that Republicans have been suppressing the vote in this state a lot. If you look at 2018 with with Stacey Abrams and how there was a lot of tomfoolery going on in Georgia, I think if it's really close, I think that closing a lot of polling locations and like rejecting ballots could honestly give Donald Trump a very slight edge. However, I would not be too surprised if Joe Biden was able to walk away with Georgia. Now, lastly, Texas is a very interesting state. Out of the 4 models I looked at for making this video, 3 of them say it's a 2/3 chance for Trump to win, but one of them has Joe Biden at a 75% chance to win. I still think Trump is going to barely win, even though it's trending Democrat. I think 2024 will be the real opportunity that Democrats have to try to pick up this state. This is a state that Democrats really want, so there's a lot of wishful thinking surrounding it. But I really think that just based on a lot of the polling that we've seen, and just based on early voting in certain parts of the state, I think at this current moment that it very slightly tilts towards Donald Trump. So that is actually it. I'd like to thank everyone for watching. I'm going to make another video a few days out from the election, maybe 2 to 3 days before it, just kind of sticking with this map, but then changing a few things based on if any polling changes, based on if the debate changes anything tomorrow. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.